We're 10 weeks through the NFL season, and I'm not sure I remember an NFL season with this much parity and this much changing of the guards happening at once. There are some major shakeups to the tier list this week, and without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start with the 2026 mock draft season tier. The New York Football Jets. This is their tier. They've won 2 games in a row, but Justin Fields only had 54 passing yards in the game that they won. They're probably only won because of their special teams efforts with the kick return and the punt return touchdown. But the New York Jets, obviously, they cleaned house. And of course, because it's the NFL, they won a game right after. I got Miami in this tier, and Miami's actually kind of been balling lately. I got to be honest, if they look impressive in Madrid against the Commanders and handled them the way that they handled Buffalo, I might have to move Miami up to the Frisky tier. Even though their season is pretty much over and they should be looking ahead to the mock draft, they've been playing some great ball lately. Tua, A-Chain, and Waddle, that offensive trio starting to look like maybe something you could believe in to be a playoff caliber team next year if the team could put the right pieces around them. The Cleveland Browns, they lost to the Jets, but I think, again, they lost to the Jets because of those special team spots. The Browns, I just don't think Dylan Gabriel's the guy. I think we are on Shedeur Sanders' watch at this point. Tennessee Titans, they're coming off of a bye. I still think outside of Cam Ward, they probably have the worst roster in the NFL. The Las Vegas Raiders lost 10-7 on Thursday Night Football to the Denver Broncos. Were competitive in that game. Moving off of Jacoby Myers, it looks like Tyler Lockett's going to have a bigger role for this team. Geno Smith's actually been playing a little bit better lately, but I do think it's too little too late for the Las Vegas Raiders to actually make some noise. Cincinnati still on this tier. They open up the practice window for Joe Burrow to return off of the IR. They could really only afford to lose 1, maybe 2 more games this season. So I don't know if they have it in them. They have 2 matchups left with Baltimore. They got a game against Buffalo, but they'll at least be more interesting if Joe Burrow gets back out there. New Orleans picked up a pretty nice win over Carolina. Tyler Shuck looked decent, man. He had some really nice throws in that game. He was hitting up Jawan Johnson. The touchdown pass to Chris Olave while the Panthers DB did fall down. Shuck showed off a nice arm, strength there. Definitely got a stronger arm than Rattler. So I'm starting to see why they made the change a little bit for those of you that wanted me to show some love to Tyler Shuck. I got the New York Giants in this tier. They just canned Brian Daboll. They're clearly planning ahead for the future. I think it's the right spot to be in. I think that they have a bright future, and I think that they're a really attractive job, man. Dart, Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, and a really strong defensive line. Washington, Jane Daniels is at least out for another 2 weeks. I don't see them winning many games with Mariota. Maybe they could sneak one out against Miami and Madrid and then give Jaden a reason to come back and try and compete, but it's just been a year from hell for the Washington Commanders. I'm moving Arizona down here. I don't know if it's completely fair because Seattle is one hell of a football team, but at the same tune, maybe they just kind of benefited from playing Dallas. And lastly, the Carolina Panthers are in this tier. I don't think Bryce Young is a guy that you can count on to lead you to the playoffs. The game versus the Saints, I thought, was the perfect opportunity for that. When a team could kind of slow down your run game, this is a type of opponent that Bryce Young should be able to beat. The Saints are in this tier for a reason. While they've been playing some decent ball this year, they're not a playoff team. And if you were going to be a playoff team with this guy at quarterback, these are the games that you have to win. The 2026 mock draft season tier, it's pretty full, man. It's pretty full. We move into the Frisky tier, man. I'm going to keep the Jacksonville Jaguars in this spot. They just had a disaster of a fourth quarter blowing a lead to Houston. They lost that fourth quarter 26-0. Trevor Lawrence has been playing some bad football lately. Liam Cohen looks absolutely done with him at this point in time, and I can't blame him. But they were also without Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter in this game. Their defense, I thought, always benefited early on in the season from turnovers, and I think that that's starting to show again. You had a punt return touchdown in this game against a backup quarterback and still lost. That's pretty bad. Atlanta, man. Atlanta's like the definition of Frisky, where they play competitive, they play good football, but they're 3-6 right now. They're not going to make the playoffs. Penix, I still question where he is as a franchise guy because of his lack of real arm talent and athleticism. But again, you go back to that game 2 weeks ago versus New England, and I think he was really dotting it up. The Dallas Cowboys, they're on a bye week. They're going to stay in this tier. I know that Arizona beat them, and Arizona is a tier below them. I still think Dallas is a better team, and I think a bye week, getting Quentin Williams back in that defense along with a really, really strong offense. Dallas is going to be frisky the rest of the way. Minnesota, they get dropped a little bit. JJ McCarthy, I mean, he's just clearly nowhere close to the level Sam Darnold was last year. It's not to say that McCarthy can't get there. He's young and does have some promise and is absolutely a winner. But I think the way that the NFC is shaping up playoff picture-wise, it would be really, really insane for Minnesota to go on a run to get them to the playoffs, especially in an NFC North that has 3 really solid teams in it outside of them. We move to the Fringe Playoffs tier, man, and I'm moving Houston up, man. That 26-point comeback in the fourth quarter, I think that they showed me something, man. To get a win against a Jacksonville Jaguars team who at one point was up 17-0 against you with a backup quarterback is something. Houston has the best defense in football. The offense has been coming around lately, and I think with CJ Stroud back, this team can make some noise. They get Tennessee this week. That could get them easily to 5-5. And then they got a Thursday night football game versus Buffalo. And we're going to talk about Buffalo in a second, but with Buffalo's lack of explosive offense lately and Houston's defense, I think there's a world where in 2 weeks, Houston is not only just a fringe playoff team, but quite literally in the playoffs per the AFC standing. So don't quite give up on the Texans yet. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they've been getting worse and worse. The defense actually starting to come along. I like Jalen Ramsey and Kyler Duggar at safety. Justin Herbert, I think, just outplayed Aaron Rodgers at such a high level on that Sunday Night Football game. But the offense's lack of dynamicism is really, really starting to show. This is a team that desperately needed to get a wide receiver at the deadline. I don't think DK Metcalf is a true wide receiver 1 in the league. They paid him like 1. It's really, really starting to catch up to them and kill them. And they're no longer favored to win their own division after the monster lead that they had just a few weeks ago. And then San Francisco, I actually think Mac Jones played pretty well against the Rams. And I don't think that there's going to be a huge jump in the offense when Purdy and Pierce all get back. I think that they're going to be better, but I don't think it's a huge jump. I think the lack of defensive talent is really starting to catch up to the Niners. And I think they do have a soft schedule the rest of the way, so it's possible that they get into the playoffs. But even like other just playoff level teams, I think, are going to be able to move the ball up and down the field on them just because those injuries are finally catching up to them. Hey, sorry to interrupt the video. I hope you were enjoying. I just wanted to take a moment to ask you to hit the like button and the subscribe button as we are looking to grow this channel. I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Let's hop back into the video. We move into the playoff teams tier, and I want to start with the Los Angeles Chargers, man. Maybe I'm underselling them. They are 7-3. They do have a top 10 quarterback in the sport, a top 10 head coach in the sport, and a top 10 defense in the sport. And those are things that all would normally just jump off the page to me and scream Super Bowl contender. I as well do really like their weapons. McConkey, Quentin Johnson, Gadsden, Keenan Allen. Like, it's a really solid receiving core. Omari and Hampton should be back post their week 12 bye. And you look at that and you think that's really, really solid stuff. And in an AFC, maybe again, I'm underselling them, keeping them in this tier. But Justin Herbert, even in that win versus Pittsburgh, was sacked 5 times. You saw all the graphics, for the Sunday Night Football where they rank PFF wise, and the whole offensive line is either last or second to last or third to last that's playing. Joe Alt's done for the year. Rashawn Slater never got to play this year. Again, I think the Chargers are poised for a really, really big 2026 and could honestly win it all next year. I just don't feel that is on the board for them right now this season. But when we continue to talk about the AFC, maybe I'm underselling the Chargers just because of how weak their conference is. I'd give them virtually no shot in the NFC, but in the AFC, I don't know if there's a true powerhouse. We will talk about more of those teams, obviously. I'm moving Buffalo way down to this tier. I thought Buffalo's win against Kansas City was kind of a turning of the tide, change of pace, momentum for them, and showcasing, they beat Carolina, beat them down, and then they beat Kansas City, and they pretty much handled that game despite what the final score said. And I thought, okay, Buffalo had a quick little slump in, this early part of the season where they lost to the Falcons, but in the Patriots, but they're back. And then they get just boat raced by Miami. And you watch that game, and some of it's Miami because they have guys like Waddle and A-Chain, but you just really saw Buffalo's lack of explosive playability. I think it absolutely brutally killed them. And I almost think that Buffalo tried so hard to be a mismatch for Kansas City that their roster construction got a little bit wonky. And when they go toe-to-toe with these teams that can generate big plays, Buffalo no longer has the ability to keep up with them like they once did. I think it's very possible that after this season, Buffalo loses on Wild Card Weekend and McDermott's out of a job, and maybe Brian Daboll is back in Buffalo. But Buffalo, they're really concerning, and it's so disappointing because the AFC is pretty wide open. And if we just got the same level of play from Buffalo this year that we did last year, they would easily be everybody's Super Bowl favorite. But just the way the cookie crumbles, man. And I got Baltimore moving up into this playoff team tier. I know the win over Minnesota wasn't, groundbreaking, earth-shattering, but I did think that their second half was pretty impressive. The defense has been playing much better as of late. You have an MVP caliber guy in Lamar. It is a two-dimensional offense. You can run the ball. You can throw the ball. You do have a really nice wide receiver in Zay Flowers, so I think maybe one of the more underrated wide receivers in football. And you start to look at that AFC, man, and it's pretty open. I'm not ready to sleep on Baltimore as still a team that could go to the Super Bowl. I know that they were a lot of people's preseason pick, and then rightfully so, 6 weeks into the season when they were 1-5, people were selling stock on that. But again, I think Baltimore could start rattling up some wins here, and all of a sudden we're going to look at them and be like, oh, they might actually be a legit Super Bowl contender. I still got Detroit in this tier. I'm not going to move them up a spot or a tier just for dominating a bad team in the Commanders who are completely brutalized. We kind of knew that that was going to happen. One interesting note for Detroit, though, Dan Campbell takes over the play calling. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery start splitting the roles a little bit more. Jahmyr looks a lot more explosive. Jameson Williams is involved. So this week coming up when they play Philly, I think it's really important to see what the Detroit Lions offense looks like. And for Detroit, and to kind of just analyze them as a team, I'd love to see them get down 10-0 in that game and see what the offense could do with Dan Campbell, because anytime Detroit's trailed this year, it's felt to me like the offense kind of goes off the rails. And with a new play caller, I'd be interested to see if that changes. Tampa Bay. I've kind of had Tampa Bay sitting in the Super Bowl contenders tier for a while now. And the loss to New England's a respectable loss, but we got told that there's no timetable on a return for Chris Godwin or Bucky Irving. At a certain point, there's just too many injuries here for Tampa, and it's been like 3 weeks now of kind of bad play for them in a row. So I'm going to move them down to the playoff teams tier because I just don't feel the way that they're currently playing is Super Bowl contender. And now I don't know how much of the roster is even coming back. Green Bay, we got to move down, man. Green Bay's got to be moved down to the playoff teams tier after last night. They only put up 7 points, and a lot of people's instant reaction was Matt LaFleur was the problem, and I get it. Matt LaFleur was running Josh Jacobs a ton. Jordan Love had some bad plays in that game, just bad misreads, getting off of routes too quickly, not getting the ball to open receivers. And I think that there is a disconnect between Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. I don't think Matt LaFleur trusts Jordan Love. And if you guys are not new to the channel, you know for a while, I've kind of had my distrust of Jordan Love. A lot of people wanted to vault him into the top 10 quarterback conversation, and I just wasn't quite there yet with him. I do think in these big games, you know that he's going to turn the ball over one way or another, and he did last night. Listen, Packers fans that want to blame Matt LaFleur and fire Matt LaFleur, I think it's a mistake, man. I think it's a mistake. I'm not saying get rid of Jordan Love. I just think that these guys need to work on their connection. And I think it's also important to remember that Green Bay is one of the youngest teams in football. Tucker Kraft getting hurt, I said it would really bother them. It looked like it did. They still are without Jaden Reed. Matthew Golden didn't play last night. So I don't want to overreact too much. And they do have a really solid defense, but I just think that there's some teams in the NFC that are clear tiers and calibers above what Green Bay is playing right now. And I'm moving Chicago up into the playoff teams tier, man. Chicago passed Green Bay in the standings last night. Chicago is 6-3 now. They are firmly in the playoffs, and they're very much alive to win the NFC North at this point in time. Caleb and Ben Johnson, the connection is growing. It's gotten better throughout the season. Is Caleb playing, top 5, even top 10 level quarterback right now? I wouldn't say so, but I think Caleb is getting better at making plays. His legs have been an absolute real threat. Rome Odunze, I do think, is developing into a wide receiver 1 in this league, and you can't deny that Ben Johnson has transformed the Chicago Bears into a really strong rushing team, and as the weather gets colder, that is going to win you a lot of football games. The defense, it's decent. I think similar to Jacksonville early on in the year, they benefited from a lot of turnovers, but there's no denying it, man. Chicago knows how to win football games, and Ben Johnson is absolutely the truth. He was everything as advertised as the head coach, and I think Caleb Williams is starting to really come into his own and maybe live up to those expectations that we set for him when he was drafted. The Super Bowl contenders tier, I get it. You know, this is where things are going to get a little divisive. I still have the Colts in this tier, man. I thought about moving them up to the Super Bowl favorites. They were number 3 on my list of AFC teams. I really thought about it. I couldn't quite bring myself to get them there. Jonathan Taylor has an MVP level performance versus Atlanta. Sauce Gardner looks pretty solid in his debut. The Colts are 8-2 right now. They look poised to potentially be the 1 seed in the AFC. They're playing some really great ball. We did see again Daniel Jones a little slippery with the football, so it's back-to-back weeks now where he's kind of been coughing that football up. They go on to a bye. I'm interested to see what he looks like coming out of that bye in that Week 12 matchup versus Kansas City. I do think is going to tell us a lot. The Denver Broncos, I can't move them up, man. I know that they are 8-2 and they have a top 2 defense in the sport and a really good run game, but a 10-7 win, even though it was Thursday night against the Raiders, that's just not something that I could reward moving up. I don't think Bo Nix is particularly playing great football this year. Again, we talked about it on the recap show yesterday, but if Bo Nix figures it out, Denver could easily go to a Super Bowl this year. It's just a matter of if Bo Nix figures it out. And then Seattle. I know that this is going to be divisive because of the way Seattle's been playing lately. I do think that Seattle's benefited a little bit from some shitty competition, but they've done what great teams do, man, and they've pounded this competition into the dirt. Seattle was closer than the Colts to moving up for me. They were the first team knocking on the door of becoming Super Bowl favorites. I couldn't quite bring myself to do it. I really am looking forward to the matchup with the Rams this week. Seattle's got a top 5 defense in the sport. Smith and Jigba's a top 5 wide receiver talent. Darnold deserves to be in MVP conversations. They're playing some really strong football right now. And if you're a Seattle fan or just an NFL fan saying, hey, Seattle should move up to that Super Bowl favorites tier, I'm probably not even going to argue with you in the comment section because I get it. But you guys know I limit myself to 2 teams from each conference. My conference championship predictions as things currently lie, and Seattle just wasn't quite in there. So then we move to the Super Bowl favorites, man, and I'm going to start it right away. I know the Chiefs. I got a lot of pushback last week for having the Chiefs in. The Chiefs are coming off of a bye week, so nothing really changes about the way that I view this team. I still think they have the best quarterback in the sport. I still think that they have the best head coach in the sport. I still think that they have a top half of the league defense. Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Worthy, Hollywood Brown. I think it's legit. Am I worried about their lack of run game? Absolutely. Do I think that they may be a little bit too Patrick Mahomes for their own good? That's certainly possible. But I have to be honest. If they played the Colts or the Broncos in a must-win game today, I'd put my money on Kansas City. So if that's how I feel, I got to keep them where they are in the tier list. A team I would not put my money on, or a team I would not bet Kansas City against, is the New England Patriots. I think the New England Patriots are the best team in the AFC right now, man. I really do. And I've been waiting to see them play a formidable opponent, and I thought that Tampa Bay was that. I still believe Tampa Bay was that, and I thought that New England really handled business in that game. And some things they confirmed that we already knew. Drake May is playing at a top 10 quarterback level, deserves to be in MVP conversations. They do have one of the best run defenses in football. Mike Vrabel is a very good head coach, man. They're undefeated on the road this year. The culture, it travels. New England is playing really strong football. I loved Vrabel's coaching decisions at the end of the first half to get some clock off and then go for that touchdown. I thought that that was brilliantly executed. Some new things coming. Finally, dude, I've been beating this drum for weeks on New England. I know Patriots fans have agreed with me. Travion Henderson, get him involved. He can make your offense two-dimensional and give you a real, not just good, but explosive run game. They finally get him involved. It pays off. 2 massive explosive touchdowns for him. Rookie Kyle Williams gets a 72-yarder. If the Patriots can bring those guys along and we could see similar production out of those guys week to week, and, it's not going to be, 3 touchdowns combined and over, 300-ish yards for those guys combined, 250 plus. But if those guys can combine for 150 yards a week and a score and be explosive playmakers for New England, along with Booty coming back and Stephon Diggs playing his role, dude, the Patriots, here we go again, man. This is why good organizations stay good. Speaking of good organizations staying good, I know Philly got a 10-7 win over Green Bay. It was a defensive-minded game. Philly's offense didn't look great. There are still some concerns that I have there, but it felt very similar game plans to the way that they played against the Chiefs in week 2, man. a tough opponent on the road in the cold. It felt like they wanted to get in there, out talent them, and get out. And that's kind of what they did. That first drive, if it hadn't resulted in a fumble, it did seem like it was going for a touchdown. Again, they do need to get A.J. Brown more involved. Devonta Smith makes an explosive play. I thought the Eagles defense looked really strong last night, man. That defensive line, now that it's healthy, and Nolan Smith wasn't even playing the full game, but Jalen Phillips, an immediate impact. Jalen Carter looked the best he's looked all year. You had Brandon Graham coming in the fourth quarter. So the Eagles defensive line is back to as strong as it was. And you know, if you're somebody that's saying, hey, Seattle's been playing better ball over the last few weeks, I guess that's fair. That they've looked better because they've played worse competition, but the Eagles have the toughest strength of schedule at this point in time. They have wins over the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, now the Packers. Like, they are playing hard teams, and they are still 7-2 and still the #1 seed in the NFC. And I think that's got to be rewarded on the tier list, man, and reflected that way. But my personal #1 team in football right now, the Los Angeles Rams. I think Matthew Stafford's the MVP of the league if it ended today. I think that they have no doubt a two-dimensional offense. This Kyren Williams and Blake Corum running back duo is starting to look really, really strong. Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua has a case for being the best wide receiver duo in football. The offensive line is hooping. They're top 5 in sacks. Like, they have a top 10 defense and a top 5 offense in LA right now. McVay is one of the best coaches in the sport. Everything is clicking for the Los Angeles Rams. I cannot wait to see them play the Seattle Seahawks this upcoming week, but I think that they're the best team in football at this point in time. I really, really do. If I did like a power rankings 1 through 32, the Rams would be the #1 team on that list. But this is the tier list as we head into week 11. A lot of shakeup, a lot of parity, a lot of room for changes in these last 8 weeks, man. 2 months left of the regular season. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you made it this far in the video, I'd appreciate it if you could hit the thumbs up button. It's good for the algorithm. Lets me know that you like it. 2 for 1 there. It's free. As well, what's free? That subscribe button. Hit that button if you love the NFL. We're 3 subs away from 400. I'd appreciate getting there ASAP Rocky, and I will get you next time. Peace.